So we're going back into the Akashic Records today. Today we're going in with the intention to find out how we can better tap in to divine self-connection. That's the higher version of ourself, the light body version of ourself, or our higher self. We really want to trust that guidance. For some people, there's struggles with trusting what they're receiving, what's coming through. We're trying to find ways now to, and this came up in the pick a card readings, and then it's come out again in when I shuffled to see what we're looking at in the Akashic today. So we're looking at a way that you can feel safe to trust the guidance. So we're looking at ways that we can tap into our higher self, or that higher version perspective of ourself, to find out how we can open our eyes or awaken to wisdom, to allow ourselves to open to awakening vision, to really see with clarity this current timeline that we're on, to see how to move forward, to see how to connect, to trust, to learn to trust the guidance and the messages that are coming through. That's what I'm looking for in the Akashic Records today. It's how to best connect to that divine self, that higher self, and trust the guidance that we're bringing through, to really be able to know and feel safe and connected, and that we can trust the messages we're bringing through. So that way we can have this awakening wisdom, open our eyes to see the timeline that we're on right now with clarity and truth. That's the message that the card said we want to look into today for today's Akashic record reading. This is the message about how to learn to trust the guidance that we're receiving. So tapping into our higher self, that higher version form of ourself, the light body version of ourself. It's part of us, it's part of ourself. We're not looking at tapping into any being or type of connection outside of our own self. So this is the higher self, it's the light body self. Now, it's interesting because in this reading, the first thing I'm drawn to here, it says and it's pointing to it. In my card, from what I'm seeing, from my point of view, my perspective, the rods are pointing to stellar kin and no sense nonsense. Okay, makes no sense. So, and it's really interesting considering that the topic for this reading that I was asked to look into today was by the cards. The cards told me this is what I'm searching in the Akashic Records, is that people need help to really trust and believe the messages, the guidance they're receiving. So sometimes the best, simplest and safest way we can feel really connected is by just tapping into our higher self, not tapping into starseed connections, cosmic family, angels, anything beyond ourself, outside of ourself. We're just tapping into the light body version of ourself, or the higher self. I think this is what we're focused on today, because this is the way that you can really learn to trust the message, because it's coming from you, but it's coming from you in a way that is outside of the physical body. So you've got a higher perspective on it. You can really see what's going on from an outside perspective, not from the physical. So I think that's where we're tapping into today. Now, source origin on the other side, here is the card of, okay, so this is where it meets in the middle, because the source origin, this is how you see beyond yourself, is because you come from source. You're a spark of divine source, spark of divinity. And I'm pretty sure divinity might have been a word, divine connection could have been the card that was the topic for today. But the source origin is showing me divine spark. So it's showing me that you're part of the divine. You're part of the source origin. That's where you came from. And you splintered into a spark. Your soul, your monad, your where all your existence is, or your past lives, all recorded in the Akashic, but it's all for you. It's all about you. Interesting. I'm not sure this reading's going where I thought it might go, but I'm just going to be guided to go. Now, coming back over here, yes, from my perspective, the rods are pointing at Keeper of Destiny, Akashic Records. Yes, that is what I'm reading today. And the cards are validating that, yes, we are in the Akashic Records today, because we're trying to see how to trust the messages, the telepathic harmony, the words unsaid, and it's also pointing over there to the spirit channel, the connection or connected downloads, the connection downloads that we receive. So how to trust them? Part of that is because understanding your divine spark, understanding you're part of the source, that you are originated from the source. So having that trust and faith in, it's not just your higher self having this outside perspective above and beyond the physical body, but it is connected to the source. It is part of the source. And that's why you can read the collective energy, the Akashic energy, the ancient scripts, knowledge from the past, present, and future, because you are part of source origin. That's your higher self came from source origin. It's just a divine spark of that. So therefore it's able to tap into that energy. Now why I'm saying this is because for you to feel safe and trust the message of the guidance, it's easiest to tap into your higher self because you know it's you, it's part of you. So you can feel like you can trust that. Sometimes the voice you hear in your head, this is interesting, it's bringing through that telepathic harmony, the words unsaid. Sometimes the voice in your head is just you, it's your higher self, it's your higher version of you just feeding you messages, downloads, or claircognizance or clairaudience, just bringing you the telepathic communication coming from you. It sounds like you, so it's you, it's just a different part of you, a spiritual or light body version of yourself. So the source origin says that higher self, that light body self, is connected to source origin, and that's why you can see beyond just your messages, but messages for other people, messages for the collective, and messages from the Akashic Records, because you're not just tapping into the Akashic Records that is just for you based on your experience, your past life experiences, or where you're headed, past, present, or future, but you're able to read any part of it, because that higher self is connected to the source origin. It originated from the source. So that's why I'm saying that, for one thing, you can trust yourself because it's you. It feels like you hear it as you, so you can trust that message. You know it's your higher self, it's part of you, it's your light body or your spiritual body. But then how do you know that the message is, how can your higher self read somebody else's timeline? How can your higher self read to what's going on in the collective? And the answer to that is because your higher self or your light body self originated from the source, and that's how you can tap into the Akashic Records and receive that information through telepathic harmony, through words unsaid, because that voice sounds like yours, and that's how it's coming in. Also, the spirit channel, the downloads, comes in that way as well. Mercury the messenger sit next to download or spirit channel, so they're showing that the messages that are coming in, and the main topic for today's reason for tapping into the Akashic is, how do I learn to trust what I'm receiving? How can I feel safe tapping into something beyond the physical? Because you're tapping into you, you're tapping into the divine part of you, that part that originated from source origin, to bring in the messengers, the important messages that need to be learned or need to be heard. But they come in through words unsaid. It sounds like your voice, but it comes in through spirit channel downloads. Sounds like you because it is you, but that part of or version of you is connected to source origin, and that's why you can tap into anything on the other side safely, but with confidence that you're able to receive those messages. So the ancient scripts are saying knowledge from the past. So you can, kind of interesting what it's saying here. From my perspective, it's pointing at Keeper of Destiny, Akashic Records, but also no sense nonsense and making sense of something. But the topic that I'm reading, or the card that I'm looking at for this, is the ancient scripts, knowledge of the past. So maybe, yes, you can read about going to the Akashics to look at lessons you've learned from your past lives and things that you need to work through, or what it was, the reason why you looped back into this life, because what was it that made you loop back into this life? What did you think that you could do better, or what reason did you come back? So yes, you can look into the Akashic Records to find that out for yourself. But have you considered that ancient knowledge from the past that's maybe been hidden, lost, or changed? Maybe you can make sense of that. Maybe it helps you break through the nonsense that we're being told certain cultures did or didn't do that's been hidden from us. And maybe that's something that you can look into and have confidence knowing how you're getting it, because your higher self that you feel comfortable with, sounds like your voice in your head, gets that information from the Akashic, information and knowledge from ancient scripts about how the ancients did it. I'm talking the Atlanteans, Lemurians, maybe even the Egyptians. What did they do? And maybe they can reveal, maybe you can reveal that information, because it looks like we've been divided or separated from our spiritual presence. Now, maybe the Atlanteans did a lot more work with that part of themselves. Maybe they were just connected a lot more than we are here in this physical. We're divided or separated. Not everybody. A lot of people devote their lives, and I know I do, to keeping that connection or having that connection, building that connection. But a lot of people don't. They just work, sleep, eat, survive. Interesting, because now we're seeing survival mode. They're just in a constant state of heightened alertness or stress. They're in survival mode. They're trying to make money so they can afford to pay their bills and to afford to work. It's a trap. It's a trap that says you're disconnected, divided or separated from that part of yourself, that higher self part, that source origin part, because you're just stuck in survival mode. So that's the reason for the division, why we're separated. So make this make sense? Okay, make this make sense. We're in survival mode. We're just working, we're eating, we're sleeping, we're paying bills, we're repeating. We're disconnected from that spiritual part of ourselves. So we kind of we either ignore it, we don't trust it, we ignore our instincts, we ignore our intuition. It's maybe not that we don't trust it, we just kind of neglect it or don't listen to it. We don't pay attention to it. Not everybody. Probably not the people watching these videos, but this is what they're showing me. This is where the division has come from. It's from being in survival mode. And the more that you're focused on dramas that's going on in the world, or your own survival in this world, the more that you are divided and separated from your higher self or your spiritual body, your light body, that source origin part of yourself. So I hope that made sense. The only other connection that I'm seeing here that I want to talk about is ancient scripts, knowledge from the past, and then we're seeing eternal cycle reincarnation. Okay, so being able to tap into past lives to learn maybe even past lives, like way back on when we had that really strong connection. Maybe tapping into a past life where we did have a good connection, did have good downloads and connection to that higher self aspect or that source origin before it was hidden, before it was given that tag of you're crazy, you're schizophrenic, you're all the bad labels that come with the psychic type stuff. When people are confused, when they don't lead a psychic life, or don't lead a spiritual life where they've practice building their spiritual abilities, their intuition, their psychic abilities. Instead, they get things and they go and seek help and they're told they're schizophrenic. Why am I going here? I'm not sure. Tell me why I'm going. Okay, because we're downloading something about Akashic Records. Yes, I'm in the Akashic Records. I'm downloading information about making sense of trusting our higher self. That's what they're showing me. And from my perspective, both rods are pointing to no sense, nonsense. So the reason I'm tapping into the Akashic Records today and downloading this information is because for some people, we need to make sense of this, because it's given a bad title, a bad feeling, a bad tag to psychic abilities, sometimes written off as schizophrenia. If you or you go crazy. If you go too far down that rabbit hole, you'll go crazy. You'll end up in a mental home, or you'll end up in care because you'll go crazy. You're talking nonsense. They're definitely pointing to this no sense nonsense. And when I saw this card, I thought, what is that going to mean? Well, now I can see it, because sometimes when you maybe that's a fear of why you're not trusting the messages, because part of it is fear of looking crazy. You'll be one of those really woo-woo people that start going up to people in the street and say, do you know this I've got a message from you from this person, because see how we've got Mercury the messenger, and some people will look at you like you're crazy. So maybe that is a fear. Maybe that's something that does divide us from our path, is that fear of being identified as being crazy, because you're talking nonsense. No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just being cynical. Yeah, because that's a fear as well. So you want to trust the messages from your higher self, because I think in the past, Atlanteans or ancients from the past did have that deep connection. They did trust that. And I think even I'm thinking the Delphi, The oracles of Delphi, they used to go and seek messages from the oracles of Delphi in past cultures to find out how they were going to do in battle, things like that, and question. So they really did. It was part of their purpose. It was part of their culture or their existence. We just don't have that anymore. We're looked at as, oh, we're talking nonsense or we're crazy. So we don't quite have how it used to be in the past, in the ancients, the way they used to respect the connection, the process, the higher self, the connection to the source origin. It's laughed at now. Even for, say, true crime readings, people bring through messages and it's just really not taken into consideration because it's nonsense. That's the title that it has. But it didn't. And there was a time when in the past, like I said, they've hidden, they've covered over. That was part of connection. Now, why they would have hidden that is because they don't want you connecting. They don't want you connecting to your higher self or to your divine part of yourself, your source origin, because you're going to learn how to get out of this reincarnation loop. There you go. There's a connection. And why reincarnation's really there, because they know that you'll get out of this loop. If you're connected, you're asking the right questions. So they instead rather frame you as crazy or talking nonsense. Don't trust that person. They're crazy, they're woo-woo, they're talking nonsense because they don't want you to get out of the loop. They want you to keep recycling back in. Amazing how all these cards fit together. And I read them all. So some of the cards that came out, I thought, oh, what is that going to mean? Nonsense. And I thought, how's reincarnation going to fit into this? I had no clue. I just go with the flow. I just download and say what they tell me to say. Telepathic communication, words unsaid, that higher self connection, and they match up all the cards. They make it all make sense. And that's what they said to me during it, make this make sense. So now they have. They've given me every key by every card and pieced it all together in a narrative or a story, and they've made this made sense. Hope you enjoy this reading. Let me know what you think, and thank you so much for watching.